Hello. Today is the 19th of June. In America, uh, this date is also referred to as the Juneteenth. Um, so many of us may be aware of the significance of Juneteenth. It was the day which is marked across the United States in almost all the states. Um, this date is marked as Abolition Day, as the day on which slavery was officially abolished. Although it was abolished many months before, but people in Galveston, Texas, came to know about it today in 1865, and so therefore Juneteenth, that is to say, it's a portmanteau word consisting of June and 19th, so Juneteenth, is celebrated across the United States as Liberation Day, as Abolition Day, the day on which slavery was officially abolished. So let's just sort of keep that in mind for this, what promises to be, I think, a rather rambling talk. But you have suffered me before, so I'm sure you're going to suffer this one too. So let's just keep this in mind that slavery was abolished today in 1865 in the United States. What is slavery? Slavery is about owning human beings as property. Yes, because in the 1830s, when the British abolished slavery, a huge amount of money was raised by the British government to compensate slave owners because of the loss of their property. That is to say, they were being compensated for losing the human beings, the men, women, and children that they owned. Human beings as property. So let's just sort of keep that in mind, because I may go back to that idea later on in this video. I have also been thinking about the passing of Sushant Singh Rajput. I'm sure I am not alone in being very disturbed by it, very troubled by it. And that also set me thinking as to what role do friends play in life? Not partners, not girlfriends, not boyfriends, not lovers, friends. What role do friends play? Tied to that is the idea that somehow being in a relationship is better than having friends. So whether we admit it or not, in our heads, there is a certain hierarchy that we place, most of us place, I'm not saying all, but most of us place, on being in a relationship. So it is almost as though being in a relationship is better than having friends. Which is why, when people are asked about the possibility that there may be something going on between the two people, very often they are asked, are you two more than just friends? And it is this more bit that interests me. What is it that relationship provides you that a friendship can't or doesn't? And why is it that friendship is regarded as being somehow a less intense relationship? So if you think about it, this kind of, I am going to call it, I'm not terribly sure if I can call it a binarization, but certainly a hierarchization of friendship and relationship. So friendship is here and relationship is there. This kind of hierarchization, I would suspect, is very much a 20th century phenomenon. This hierarchy probably wasn't there before, because as far as my reading goes, relationships and friendships were not regarded as being one is superior to the other. And the reason why that wasn't the case is because friendships were regarded as being incredibly intense. And we can find examples of these intense friendships in ancient Greek literature. We can find these intense friendships during the Renaissance. You can find these intense friendships all the way down to the Victorian period, and even as late as 1920. I think I've got a date over here. 1927, in a silent film called Wings, coming out of America. One man says to the other, "Nothing was more important to me than our friendship." Now, if we look at our own scriptures, if we look at the Gita, if we look at other kind of scriptures that are available, we are constantly going to find the way in which friendships are regarded as being very, very intense. They're regarded as being something which is even more intense than marriage. Anybody who is aware of the friendship that existed between Arjun and Krishna will know this. So what went wrong? But before we go on to say what went wrong, let me just give you an example of the way in which friendship was talked about before this hierarchization happened. I'm not going to go too far into history. I'm simply going to talk about a letter that Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick, he wrote to Nathaniel Hawthorne. Now, Melville and Hawthorne, they met in 1850 when Hawthorne was 46 and Melville was 31. Okay, without telling you exactly what Hawthorne was supposed to have inspired in Melville's heart, I am simply going to read out from this fairly well-known letter that Melville wrote to Hawthorne. He says, "Your heart beats in my ribs, and mine in yours, and both in God's. It is a strange feeling. No hopefulness is in it, no despair, content. That is it. And irresponsibility, but without licentious inclination." I thought that caveat was very interesting. Without licentious inclination. So Melville was clearly saying that, yes, I have these intense feelings for you, but please don't make the mistake of thinking that these feelings are sexual. Please don't make the mistake of thinking that these feelings are romantic. Which rather begs the question, why would he have to say that? Why would he have to say that? Yes? And then it continues. "Whence come you, Hawthorne? By what right do you drink from my flagon of life? And when I put it to my lips, lo, they are yours and not mine. I feel that the Godhead is broken up like the bread at the supper, and that we are the pieces." So he is actually talking about his feelings towards Hawthorne by comparing themselves as two halves of the Eucharistic bread. Now, this whole idea of two people being separated halves of one body, this, of course, goes at least as far back as Plato's Symposium, in which Aristophanes talks about how love was created. You know the story, of course, so I'm not going to go into that. So the whole idea that love is created because we used to be one human being once upon a time, and the thunderbolt of Zeus cut us in half, and so therefore we constantly go around the world looking for the other half. right? So therefore, which is why in colloquial English you've got the expression the other half. Some people rather patronizingly call it the better half. But I think most people call it the other half. So the idea remains that there seems to be a certain two-ness that is involved in it, and these two pieces of the bread apparently they belong together. That is what is being meant. Now, if you also look at this particular letter through the prism of queer studies, yes, then the letter seems to be pussyfooting around the idea that Melville has clearly fallen in love with Hawthorne, but he can't declare it in so many words because, of course, it would be unthinkable at that time. Hawthorne somehow guesses the intensity of Melville's feelings, and Hawthorne moves away from Melville. Yeah. But the fact remains that the nature of the letter, the language of that letter, is very ambiguous. So it could have romantic, erotic overtones, but it could also be an intense friendship. So therefore, there was once upon a time a language that was available with which you could talk about these intense friendships between men. Also, let me refer you to another 19th century sort of bunch of words. This is from Tennyson's poem, In Memoriam. And in Memoriam, which of course was written, as you very well know, in memory of his dead friend Arthur Hallam, these four lines appear that I'm sure many of you know, but I'll read it out nonetheless. I hold it true, whate'er befall, I feel it, when I sorrow most. 'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Now, many times I have heard those two lines quoted in a heterosexual context. 'Tis better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. But in this case, the love that is being talked about is not the love of a man for a woman, or of a woman for a man. It is the love for a man by another man. So there is, again, so why does he use the word love? Because he thinks that this kind of language is still acceptable. A friend can talk about another friend using the kind of language which may carry romantic overtones. Also, and this will be my last reference from 19th century literature, Walt Whitman. So in Walt Whitman's poem, When I Heard at the Close of the Day, he very clearly uses the phrase, my friend, my lover. So therefore, when he says my friend, my lover, he's doing this very interesting thing. He's saying that friend and lover then become synonymous. My friend, my lover. So it is this synonymity which I think is rather wonderful. And when you regard the friend and the lover as being synonymous, do you realize what is happening over there? There is no hierarchy between a romantic and erotic relationship and a platonic friendship. No hierarchy at all. And in the Indian context, that also continues well into the 1970s, or at least 80s, where you have all these Bollywood films which celebrate the friendship of two men, in which they talk about each other. There is going to be one duet that they're going to sing. And the language of the duet is astonishing, because if you didn't know that these songs were sung by two men, you would be forgiven for thinking that these are romantic songs, right? So therefore, there is a kind of intensity that used to be there in friendships, which isn't there anymore. And why did that happen? And how did that happen? So we come to the Bollywood representation of friendship between men, and around the time when we become aware of homosexuality in India, there is greater public discourse of homosexuality in India, something very interesting begins to happen. You still have movies in which there are male friends, but magically, not two friends anymore, but three. There seems to be some kind of a paranoia that takes over Bollywood, that if you somehow show two men being very, very friendly to each other, people may start to suspect something about them. So let's not go that way. Let us show three friends, because, of course, three people can't possibly love each other, right? So there is a certain kind of a normative assumption that is being traded on. The assumption being that only two people can be in a romantic sexual relationship. There can never be three people. And also, friendship must be evacuated of any sense of romance, any sense of the erotic. All the romance, all the erotic has to be shifted to the heterosexual relationship in the film. Now, when we look at our own lives, we find as well that no matter how many friends we have, we still seek that one romantic sexual relationship. Not all, most of us. What is it that the romantic relationship gives us that friendship does not? This is what it gives us. It gives us the right to own another human being, like slave masters owned slaves. So we may say, I love you, but what we mean is, I own you. Your body is my property. They may not say it in so many words, but that is what is meant. I have had so many conversations with people who are supposedly in very happy relationships. And I have told them, and I've asked them, what is it about your relationship that you find so satisfying, so wonderful? And they said, oh, there's a mental connect. There is a way in which we connect with each other. Yes, we laugh at the same jokes. We enjoy the same movies. We love the same authors. So I said, oh, that's fantastic. So your relationship is more of an intellectual relationship. Yes, it is an intellectual relationship. So which means that if your boyfriend or girlfriend has sex with somebody else, that would be fine with you. No. So I said, but you just said that the body of the girlfriend or boyfriend is not important to you because your relationship is intellectual. As long as you two continue to have intellectual conversations, why should it matter to you who your boyfriend or girlfriend is sleeping with? There's no answer. Because we lie to ourselves. We say something, but we think something else. We say that the body is not important, but we attach a huge amount of importance to the body. And this is something that we simply don't recognize. That when we say we love someone, we are actually enslaving them. And we are in turn being enslaved by them. So here is the question that I would want you to ponder. Is it ethical for two people to own each other in the name of love? Because love is not supposed to imprison people. Love is supposed to free people. And it is this notion of one person becoming another person's property, which is absolutely solidified and concretized through the institution of marriage, where the husband absolutely owns the body of the wife, and vice versa. So, what we really need to ask ourselves is, why is it that the culture that we live in is always selling us friendship as being somewhat inadequate, somewhat lacking in something which a romantic sexual relationship that can provide us? This is a patriarchal conspiracy. And if we regard ourselves as being feminist, we should perhaps try to value friendship as much as a relationship. I'm not saying that friendship is better. I'm not saying that a relationship is better. I'm saying that if you are going to value them equally. But of course, I think friendship has got that one advantage that the heteronormative relationship does not have. And by the way, when I say heteronormative, I mean that heteronormative relationship that can also exist between two men or between two women. So what we should really try to think about is how to regard people we are in a romantic, erotic relationship with as our friends. That is the first point. And the second point of this video is that maybe we should try to invest more in our friendships. Maybe we should try to value friendships as much as our culture forces us to value mutual ownership, which our culture passes off as a happy romantic relationship. There are people who feel extremely depressed, extremely miserable on 14th of February because they don't have a girlfriend and they don't have a boyfriend. This depression is not produced from within, it is created from without. It is created by popular culture. This horrible conspiracy to celebrate mutual ownership of couples needs to stop. Thank you so much.